So this is Siri's new 20mm f1.8 1.33 times autofocus anamorphic lens. That's quite a title for a lens. So there's been a recent rise in autofocus anamorphic lenses, particularly from Sirui and from Blazer. Now I haven't been able to test the Blazers yet, and this is the first one that I've been able to get my hands on, and I'm actually pretty excited about this one. And it's kind of unique. I'm pretty interested in this one because it is so wide, right? It's 20mm, which is very impressive for a anamorphic lens. I think that these types of autofocus anamorphic lenses that have been coming out more recently are probably the best anamorphic lenses for beginners, right? People getting into the system, they're new, they maybe have like a ZVE10 or like an a6700 or even an FX30, and they're looking at getting into something a little bit more interesting and have a bit more character to their shots, maybe looking at something like an anamorphic. This is a great way to go. Now, before we start looking at some of the footage of this lens, I just want to talk to you about a couple of negatives that I've experienced with this lens. We'll just get those out of the way first. First off, it has these teeth on it, right? So these like gears, which are used on cinema lenses. Actually, let me grab one here. So this is another cinema lens, right? This is by ZVE Optics, and it's one of their Speedmaster primes, and it also has these gears built in, right? So these gears are designed to attach a follow focus so that you can then control the focus either wirelessly or a little bit more easily rather than having to use your hand like this. Now the reason they have these teeth on here is because these sorts of lenses are completely manual. There's no autofocus at all, and they have these hard stops. You can hear at the end here, it has a hard stop. So that means that, you know, whenever you're calibrating your autofocus motor, it knows where to start and stop. That's just kind of part of the whole process. Unfortunately, this lens also has these gears built into it, but there's no hard stop, right? It's actually all entirely focused by wire. So if you were planning on getting this lens to use as a autofocus lens that you could also attach a follow focus to, I just wouldn't recommend it. I think this is basically just designed for autofocus, and I kind of feel like these teeth are more of a novelty. I wouldn't recommend trying it because focus by wire, when you're doing manual focus pulls on these sorts of things, it's never quite as consistent, and without the hard stops, if you're using like a tilt to follow focus or any of the sort of wireless ones, calibrating this would be an absolute nightmare. So obviously that's just a limitation with focus by wire type of things, but anyway, I would highly recommend use this just in autofocus, or if you're doing manual focus, probably just go by hand. Now, another thing we're going to get into a little bit more in a second. As far as the anamorphic characteristics of this lens go, they're not bad, right? They're not bad, but they're not my absolute favorite. It's got quite a lot of pin cushion distortion rather than barrel distortion. Anamorphic lenses always have distortion, so it's more just pick which one you want. Another downside is actually, this might seem kind of niche and it's actually nothing to do with this lens, but the Sony FX30 that you're watching this on right now, which I think is a phenomenal pairing for these types of lenses, it can actually de-squeeze the footage inside the camera and put it on the screen, but unfortunately it disables autofocus, and I have no idea why it does that. It feels like it shouldn't have to do that, but I guess because they never had autofocus lenses for anamorphic, it just automatically turned off the autofocus, which is really annoying because then you can't autofocus with this lens on the FX30 if you have the de-squeeze enabled, so you have to just film normally. Just something to make you aware of. Now, as far as the size of the lens go, I actually think it's very, very reasonable. You might think it looks really large, especially on something like, you know, an a6700 or something like this, because it you know, it looks pretty big. But for an anamorphic, this is a very reasonable size, especially with all the bells and whistles that it has. For example, it has an aperture ring, which is clicky, which I think is quite nice. But you can also declick that, so you can just turn it off so it's nice and smooth. And it's pretty smooth, and the focus ring is very, very loose and very easy to turn, quite pleasing. It's not too bad. And then the only other things that it has is it has an autofocus manual focus switch, which sounds nice, and it has an autofocus lock button there on the side. So if you're wanting to sort of, if you're filming something and you want to lock the focus in place while your subject is moving around, you can just hold that button, which is quite nice. And overall, I think it does fit pretty well on a camera. This is the a6700, which again, I think is a fantastic pairing for this. It is bigger than the camera itself, obviously, but that's just part of it. I think it looks great. I'm a big fan of this. Now on the front, it does have a 77mm filter ring. So if you're using any sort of ND filters, or if you want to buy any step-up rings to go to like 82mm, this has 77mm. And then on the outside, it has an 80mm diameter for like a clamp-on matte box. I don't actually own an 80mm clamp-on matte box, so I'm not able to test that. I don't even know of any decent 80mm clamp-ons, so if you know of a decent 80mm matte box, leave that in the comments down below because I'd be really interested to check that out. So currently you're looking at this on a 20mm f1.8. This is the Sony G. 20mm f1.8. And this is what that looks like on the Sony FX30. If I go ahead and swap over to this, you can see the difference of what that might look like. Now we are on the Anamorphic. Obviously, as you can tell, this looks really weird, right? Because I'm all squished. You can immediately see this light over here was not there before. And that's because we're actually getting extra information and footage on the size of the image. So what we can do is we can go in and post and we can stretch out the image, meaning you're actually getting a slightly larger field of view than you would get on a typical APS-C. The width is actually almost full frame, but you are getting a wider image, which is pretty good. So obviously if we go back to the 20mm that you looked at before, and now you can get this nice sort of wider field of view, which I think is pretty nice. Now I'm going to leave this on here just for the rest of the video, and I'm going to show you some sample footage and stuff that I've been able to capture with this lens. First off, I just want to show you a few things of like the characteristics and the details. So first off, we can sort of take a little bit of a look at the bokeh, and that's kind of the out of focus orbs. That's a very specific thing when it comes to anamorphic. You kind of want that teardrop shape or that sort of elongated bokeh ball. So obviously you can just let me know what you think. All of this is very much like kind of down to the personal preference of the person shooting. So if you don't like the way that these look, then don't get this lens. If you do, then maybe you might be interested. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below about the quality of the bokeh, and obviously you can see a little bit here of what the focus breathing looks like. Lastly, I want to show you some sample footage. I had this down at the coffee shop and I just filmed a little bit of B-roll of making some coffee. Nothing too crazy, but just a little bit of sample footage of making some coffee, just to show kind of what it looks like in a sort of practical use. I'm not using any studio lights or anything here. This is all very much just in camera and sort of natural lighting. But overall, I think the characteristics is pretty good. The minimum focus is actually very impressive, especially for a wide lens, never mind for an anamorphic. The minimum focusing distance is only 1.3 feet, or like 0.4 meters, which I think is very impressive, especially for an anamorphic and for a wide angle lens. You can get pretty close, which is nice. Next up is flaring. The flaring in this isn't too drastic. It's not anything super crazy. It seems to have a little bit more of a characteristic and a little bit more flare than the 40mm did. But overall, I think it's not too bad. It's not super overpowering, which again, I think for beginners is probably a good thing. You don't, like, a lot of people who are just getting started, they maybe don't quite know how to handle all of the characteristics that you can get with some extremely sort of strong anamorphic lenses. This is maybe just a good sort of introduction. It's interesting, but it's not something too crazy. But again, all of this is down to what you want. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like, and you can decide for yourself. One of the really interesting things about this lens is it actually basically covers full frame. Now this might be a little bit strange, but I actually used this as a photography lens on my trip over to Ireland. I put this on a full frame camera. I got a new full frame camera, and I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. We're going to talk about that next week. So if you're interested, do hit the subscribe button. But I put this on a full frame camera and I used it for photography, because when you're taking photos, you're taking that in like a 4:3. When you de-squeeze that, you get actually to a 16:9 photo, and you're actually getting a slightly wider field of view than full frame. Now there is quite a bit of vignetting around the corners, as you can see. That means that the lens doesn't fully cover the full sensor. But I don't really mind it, right? I mean, if you crop in by like 10% or something like that, I think you can basically get rid of most of the vignetting. But I think this actually looks pretty good, and I really loved using it for photography. I was doing a lot of black and white photography while we were over there. The only hard part, obviously, is that on the screen you're getting everything all like stretched, so you have to kind of hope that it's going to look good in post. So you can let me know what you think of these photos in the comments down below. That's one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about this lens, is it does actually make sense as a photography lens as well as a videography lens. Kind of. Now you're going to have to de-squeeze it in like Photoshop or something, or you could even just do it here in Premiere. So, you know, that's not super ideal, but just something interesting I thought I'd throw in there. But I want to know what your thoughts are. I'm planning on making more videos about this lens, and it's kind of hard to cover everything that sort of is involved in making a lens review, so I want to know what you want to know about this lens, right? I'm planning on picking up the 40mm to compare it and to contrast, because I know that that one had a lot of autofocus noise. This one I haven't had a problem at all with autofocus noise. It's been very, very quiet. But if you have any questions about this lens and the 40mm, please leave those in the comments down below, because I am going to be making follow-up videos answering your guys' questions. And if you want to see those, do hit the subscribe button, because otherwise how are you going to know when I post it? So anyway, if you enjoy these videos, do hit the like button, drop a comment down below, or maybe even subscribe as we continue to build this channel. I appreciate all of you for doing so, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.